Thank you, Mr. Georges. Nice to see you again. Thanks for coming back. Our pleasure. So we realise you've got limited time. We had called you in relation to 3 cases.
Indeed.
So case 0014, Holden Pierre, regarding the claim made by Mr. Nicholas McQueen that his family have an interest in the property being claimed by Mr. Pierre. Ramesh Naidu, which involves an allegation of wrongful conviction. You represented him.
Yes.
And Miss Hester Griesel.
Indeed.
I did my best. Who you negotiated her husband's release from prison, and she just wanted you to corroborate
Indeed.
what she said. So maybe we should start with case 94, Ramesh Naidu, if there's anything you can tell us about his allegation that that was a wrongful, orchestrated by State House conviction against him.
Good afternoon, everyone. I represented Mr. Ramesh Naidu in a criminal trial where he had been accused, along with 2 other people, of an offense of arson, which I think involved, if I'm not mistaken, an intended arson at the revenue headquarters, the Seychelles Revenue Commission, tax office, as it was then. So far as I remember, I represented 2 of the 3 accused, Mr. Naidu and another accused, and another lawyer represented the third accused person. I was aware, by reason of what I was informed by Mr. Ramesh Naidu, that he suspected that he had been wrongfully charged, framed, as it were, in connection with the offense. And the background to the case that I defended was that a taxpayer who expected that he was going to be taxed a very large sum of money had conspired with the other 2 persons to set fire to the contents of the Revenue Commission office, so to destroy the evidence, as it were. I had been, as I say, instructed by Mr. Naidu of the reasons why he thought he had been implicated in the venture. But on the basis of the evidence in the case itself, which did not, of course, have anything to do with the background that he informed me about, all 3 persons were convicted.
So did you run a defence, as this is a frame-up from State House, against my client?
No.
No.
I don't think that was the defense that I ran. I suspect that I ran the defense that he was not there.
Mm-hmm.
But we did not run the political defense.
That would not have been a good idea?
No, I ran many political defenses in many other cases, some of which I'm sure I'm going to be called back to to speak about, but it wasn't that particular one. I thought we had sufficient evidence to ensure an acquittal. I was wrong, and he was convicted. On appeal, the principal, the taxpayer accused, was acquitted. We won his appeal, but on a legal technicality and not on the facts. But I can corroborate the fact that he was tried and that he was convicted.
And that at the time, he did tell you that this was a setup at the time. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that was 1992, I think, was the trial judgment. And then it was appealed and came out in 93, 94.
It was about then, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, that would be about right.
He's been consistent to date that he was framed for that case.
Absolutely, and I see him with regard to other matters, and this has been a constant bugbear of his.
But you had said on the basis of the evidence at the time, you thought he would win his case.
Yes.
Can you elaborate?
Yes, I think it was.
Elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes, the thing happened at night, so we ran an identification. We ran a misidentity defense, so far as I remember. He was not caught red-handed, so that's the defense that we ran. He wasn't there. He didn't do it, and whoever says he was is clearly lying. But that didn't wash. It was not accepted.
Because there was a police officer that testified he was there, I think.
There was a police officer that testified that he was there and that he was caught at the scene. And we ran the mistaken identity, or a combination of mistaken identity, or you're mistaken, he wasn't there. But the moment that you have, as you know, Madam Chair, you're a lawyer, the moment that there are two accused persons, and if a cutthroat defense is run, it's very difficult to, it's he said, I said.
Thank you very much. Can we move to case 0014, Holden Pierre? And the Commission asked you to appear and to address an allegation made by Mr. Nicholas McQueen that his family's claim overlapped those of Mr. Pierre. And in that respect, if I understand correctly, Mrs. Jean McQueen, as executor of the Deltel properties, originally sold the property in question to the government, and it is part of that property sold by Mrs. McQueen to the government that Mr. Pierre claims belonged to him, and he's been negotiating with the government since 1992 for its return. What we would like to know, when we heard this last time and it had been so long in the negotiation, we made a plea, that you hurry up with the case. And then we got the email from Mr. Nicholas McQueen going, please don't hurry up because I have an interest. So what legal interest do they have in the property that Mr. Pierre is seeking to obtain from the government?
Well, I can help you. I can help you with that one. If I'm not mistaken, Mr. Nicholas McQueen has filed a complaint himself. So that will be in the works somewhere because I assisted him with doing that. But that complaint might not be before this commission. It might be a lands tribunal complaint because this was a compulsory acquisition, not a sale. Mrs. McQueen did not sell land to the government. The government compulsorily acquired the property, and there is a claim outstanding before the Lands Tribunal in that respect. Now, if I may give the background, I think it's important so that the Commission can understand exactly what the issues are. I acted for many years and still continue to act for the estate of Mr. Alexandre Deltel, who was one of the largest landowners in Seychelles, owned extensive property, and was a businessman. In fact, half of the shipping firm Hunt Deltel was founded, or was Alexandre Deltel's. They founded the firm together with Mr. Hunt. Mr. Deltel was married to a Miss Jumeau, also substantial landowners in the south of the island especially. And he had two daughters, or they had two daughters. Jeanne, the mother of Nicholas McQueen, and Maryse McQueen, had two children. And the other daughter of Alexandre Deltel was Marcella, who married a gentleman called Mr. Moore. She was known as Marcella Moore. Jeanne Deltel had married John McQueen. Mr. Alexandre Deltel's marriage, I think, ended. And the daughters went away for their education, and they married. In the meantime, Mr. McQueen took up with Mr. Holden Pierre's mother, and he had a number of children by her. Sorry? Mr. Deltel, I beg your pardon, not Mr. McQueen, Mr. Deltel, Alexandre Deltel. I do beg your pardon. Alexandre Deltel took up with this lady, Mrs. Pierre, and had a number of children by her. Mr. Alexandre Deltel resided at Anse Royal in a house called Bel Age, B-E-L-A-G-E. Facing the little beach, very popular little beach today with tourists, called Fairyland. On a large property that he owned there. In the far corner of the property, 300 or so yards away from Bel Age, were a series of plantation outbuildings, copra and cinnamon dryers and that sort of stuff. Colloquially known, as they all are, as l'usine. L'usine, meaning a factory, as it were, but the Szechuan name for coconut and cinnamon dryers, etc., is always l'usine. And that part of the property was known as l'usine. Some of the old buildings still exist. They're in ruin today, but they still exist by the side of the road. Mrs. Pierre, who was a young young lady in those days, lived with her mother in a house on that corner of the property called Luzine. And it is alleged, and was subsequently found by the Supreme Court, that Mr. Deltel had struck up a relationship with Mrs. Pierre and had had a number of children by her, the first of whom was Holden. He never acknowledged any of the children. But evidence which was subsequently led in a court case, to which I shall refer in a minute, was to the effect that he visited Luzine daily, he maintained the children, and he settled a number of properties on them. And gave to Holden a sum of money, 450,000 rupees, a large sum in those days, to set Holden up in business. And that he would have acknowledged to other people his paternity of the two sons, Holden and Hedge. That was all brought out subsequently in a trial. Now, when Alexander Deltel died, under our law, property does not pass, or immovable property, I beg your pardon, does not pass directly to the heirs. It has to vest in an executor, who then transmits the property to the heirs in accordance with the will, if there is one, or in accordance with the rules of intestacy, if there is no will. At the time of the death of Alexander Deltel, Jeanne McQueen resided in Seychelles. She had returned to the country with her husband John in the early 1970s. To take up teaching posts. As a matter of fact, Jeanne McQueen and John McQueen were both, if I'm not mistaken, the teachers of the Commissioner Purvis and myself. After Alexander Deltel died, I had by then been admitted to the bar, and I was asked to prepare an appointment of executor of his estate. And because she was resident here, Jeanne, and her sister Marcella was not, it was decided that she should become the executor. And that happened. There were two heirs to the estate, Jeanne and Marcella.
Was that in the will?
There was no will.
No will.
No.
Okay.
There had been a will made, but there was no will found at his death. So, in accordance with the rules of intestacy, he had no wife, and under the provisions of the Civil Code, all the property went to his children. 50-50.
So the other children he didn't acknowledge. How did he not acknowledge them? Like they weren't on the. He wasn't on the birth certificate.
No,
or,
no.
Yeah.
When a child is born in this country, the child is registered. If the mother is always registered, because that is an absolute. It's very difficult not to. But the father has a choice. Unless they are married, when the father's name also appears on the birth certificate by virtue of the marriage, even though the child is not biologically the husband's, but that's a different matter. Where a child is born to an unmarried woman, the father of the child is given a choice. He can acknowledge the child there and then at registration, in which case his name goes onto the birth certificate and the child bears his name, his surname, or he doesn't, in which case the child is registered with only one parent, the mother, and not the father. The father can subsequently, by notarial act, an acknowledgement of child, acknowledge the child. And at that point, the father's name will go onto the birth certificate and the child will take the father's surname. In this case, as in the vast majority of cases in this country, the father did not acknowledge the natural child. So they kept on bearing their mother's name, which is why their surname is still Pierre and not Deltel. So legally, there is no link between their father and themselves, in consequence of which they are not heirs. Now, what they did, when somebody dies, the law allows, the law allows a child at any time during the life of his or her father, but within a limited time following the death of the father, to apply to the court and get a declaration of paternity. What we call in our law an action en recherche de paternité. It's a French civil law concept, but it's basically you seek a declaration of paternity. And in this case, this is precisely what Holden Pierre and his siblings did. They filed a case before the Supreme Court seeking a declaration that Mr. Alexandre Deltel was their biological father, which of course would mean that if they were successful, that they would become heirs, and that the estate would now be shared not only between two legitimate daughters, but between the two legitimate daughters and a number of illegitimate children. There being no distinction in terms of sharing between legitimate and illegitimate. In law. I was instructed to defend the estate. Which I did. Successfully in terms of the law and unsuccessfully in terms of the facts. The case in question is reported in the 1983 edition of the Seychelles Law Reports at page 155. 1983 SLR 155, Paul Holden Pierre and others versus Mrs. Jeanne McQueen. The court found as a matter of fact, that the children had proved, namely Paul Holden Pierre, Mariette Hazel Pierre, Michelle Hedge Pierre, and May Helda Pierre, the court found that they had proved that they were the children of Alexandre Deltel, that he was their father. But the court was unable to make a declaration of paternity, so had to dismiss the plaint or the action because they were out of time. So, factually, they are the children. Legally, they are not heirs and they have no interest in the estate of Mr. Alexandre Deltel. Now, subsequently to the case, the government compulsorily acquired large, in fact, the property, Attence Royale, all of it, including Bellage, the house of Mr. Alexandre Deltel. The acquisition was fought, the compensation offered was fought, and eventually the estate of Mr. Deltel was paid a sum in compensation. As in all such cases at that time, derisory. But following the coming into force of the 1993 Constitution, and in accordance with Schedule 7 thereof, a fresh claim was made for extra compensation, and some extra compensation was paid. And some land was returned. Bellage, for instance, was returned. But not everything. And currently, before the Lands Tribunal, is a claim by the estate for the return of that part of the property which has not been sold on or used, because there are still parts of it that have not been sold on or used, and for extra compensation. That claim, as I say, is before the Lands Tribunal, but it may, if there is no positive resolution there, find its way to this commission.
So even though with the new constitution, under Section 7, they received compensation and land back, they're now contesting again that that was not a fair
Yes.
compensation
Yes.
that was
They-
received.
Yes, yes. They want the rest of the land back, because a lot of it has not been developed yet or sold on by the government, including 2 plots on a headland by the sea, which are extremely valuable, and or compensation. Now, in the meantime, Jean McQueen died, and that is when Holden Pierre went to court and got himself appointed executor to the estate of Alexandre Deltel.
Which
Nicholas-
is strange, if legally, how did he do that?
Well, this is the question. He has no interest. You see, in order to, as a threshold issue, for you to apply to the court for the appointment of executor, you have to have an interest in the estate. Now, it may well be that he has an indirect interest, because he claims that he built property. He built a house on Luzine. So it may well be that that is the reason, or that gives him the interest. Although, strictly speaking, I think he ought not to have been appointed executor. And in any event, I've had a look at the papers. He ought not to have been appointed executor unless the other heirs had also consented, and he did not receive the consent of either Jeanne McQueen or, well, Jeanne McQueen had died, but her children, who now were her heirs by representation. So he didn't acknowledge that there were other heirs apart from the Pierre children. But be that as it may, he has been appointed, and his appointment stays until it is revoked. Now, it may well be that at the end of the day, the issue might be resolved without a fight.
What about the older sister Marcella?
Marcella died without.
Oh, okay.
She died also. I don't think she had any children, so it is very likely that she would have left everything to her nephew and niece, so that at the end of the day, the only heirs left are Nicholas McQueen and Maryse McQueen. Nicholas is retired in Australia. He lives in Brisbane, and Marcella is a retired medical doctor. Maryse is a retired medical doctor and lives in Scotland, in Glasgow. And they have shared the estate of Alexander Eltel as between the two of them. Except for the only part remaining now is the claim against the government for the compulsory acquisition. It was not a sale, it was a compulsory acquisition. Now, I'm able to inform this commission that we have instructions from Nicholas McQueen to actively pursue the return of the land, including Luzin, from the government back into the estate, and to ask for additional compensation. With a view, if Luzin is returned to the estate, of negotiating with Mr. Pierre, Holden Pierre, for him to receive his due in terms of any investment that he may have made. But this is strictly without prejudice. It is a matter which has not been agreed upon, but this is, if you wish, this would be, in my view, a result that we can work towards, so that if he did, in fact, invest, but that he cannot obtain the proceeds of his investment because he was unable to prove that he was an heir, it stands to reason that he must obtain satisfaction somewhere, and that somewhere must be from the estate, in the event that government returns Luzin back to the estate.
How long do you think that might take? I'm astounded that these claims from the new constitution are still not resolved.
I've said it before to this commission, Madam Chair, and I repeat that the government was, having given a commitment in the constitution to act in good faith, acted in everything but good faith. It dragged its feet continually until the Court of Appeal had to say, please do something about it. You've given a commitment, please honor your commitment. We're tired of seeing cases come before us for us to tell you that you must honor your commitment. As a result of that, the Lands Tribunal was set up, but even that has not been, with respect, extremely diligent in the manner in which it has acted, which is why there is a build-up of frustration.
Because I think, if I understand Mr. Pierre's claim before us, he feels his father wanted him to live in that house on that land. So when you're talking about an agreement for his investment to be repaid. I think what he's really seeking is to live there, to have that land, which he says his father promised to him.
Well,
that's within the realm of.
well, that's probably correct, given what you will read in the judgment as to the relationship between these two, and if it is correct, then morally, the government should speed up the return of the land so that, if it was indeed the wish of his father that he should get this house, that he gets it. But of course, as I say, I act for the McQueens, so I can only go so far, although I'm able to say that they are going to be very obliging, without, of course, admitting anything.
So your client would not block the government proceeding to this action, or they would?
No, they won't. On the contrary, they want the government to proceed with the action. But of course, the government can only return the land to people who are legally entitled to it, which is the heirs.
Yep. So they have to revolt. Yep.
Even if Holden remains as executor, his duty under the law is not to himself. It's to the heirs, and that is the children of Alexandre Deltel, Jeanne and Marcella. So he must act on their behalf and get the government to return the land to them, so that they can then negotiate with him to give him back what he feels is his investment. Which, as I say, is not outside of the realms of possibility or even likelihood.
I like the concept of factually and legally.
We are lawyers. We have to accept that there are certain facts that are not proven.
Yeah.
But there are no less facts.
Yeah. And you add also morally.
Indeed.
Yes.
So that is essentially the position, Madam Chair, and I think what everybody is doing, including us, is pushing the government to come to a conclusion, to return this property, and whatever assistance we can get from this commission would be greatly received, as soon as possible, so that that little matter festering between Holden Pierre and the estate of the McQueens can be finally settled, and everybody can move on.
Be really a fantastic outcome if it could be done in a short period of time rather than another decade, right?
Well, I've given my commitment to both sides that I'm prepared to mediate a solution.
Thank you. I don't have any. Do you have time? And the last one is just case 49, Hester Grisel? Gurule. My apologies, Mrs. Hester. So it was just to corroborate. You got her husband was involved in that rather interesting scenario with some undercover person.
Yes. In fact, when I appeared before the Commission on the last occasion, when you asked me the question, I was completely at a loss because I'd not been able to find my file, which I knew was in my archives, and I must thank my wife because she found it for me when I wasn't able to. Indeed, I can throw some light on the issue because I have here such documents as are in my file pertaining to this matter. Essentially, I think you have the from Sylvia Hester Gurule, you have the story, which was that at some point, and for no particular reason, Conrad, her husband, was picked up and detained on the allegation that he was fomenting a coup with a foreign gentleman who had come into the country. Now, what I have here are just a few documents, but I think they're sufficient to give a flavor of what had happened. And this is 1992, which is quite odd because it was after the return to multi-party democracy. And we wondered why there would be even the notion of having a coup to achieve something that had already been legally achieved. but that is, that is a different matter. Actually, so what happened was a gentleman, Mr. Hapman, arrived in Seychelles with some compromising documents. For some reason, these documents were linked to Mr. Gurule, although I'm not sure how. Perhaps he met the gentleman, I'm not sure. But the long and the short of it was that he was then detained. He was arrested on the 21st of February 1992 and detained for 4 days in connection with an alleged attempt to overthrow the government. That's how it was categorized. I acted for him, as I now recall, having forgotten about it, and managed to secure his release at some point. I beg your pardon. But only after he'd been virtually forced, and the condition of his release was that he should speak on radio. He should make a televised or a radio appearance, a radio on government television, which he did, and then was released. He came to me immediately thereafter and asked me to take action against the government. In fact, I have here in my file a first letter on the 25th of June, 1992. Conrad, having recently been released, wrote to me and said that he enclosed a photocopy of the Nation newspaper cutting reporting his arrest, detention, and release, and telling me that among the exhibits there was a tape with a speech, which they partly played, and which was 4 years old, because references to his incidents in the tape were already 4 years old. And he enclosed this document which I will give to the Commission, which essentially is a cutting from the Seychelles Nation newspaper on the 26th of February 1992, saying that the police had released a foreign national and a Seychellois after questioning them in connection with investigations on alleged plot to overthrow the government. Various other things. Police allowed Radio Seychelles to interview Mr. Hapman and Mr. Gurule shortly before they were released, and this was really the issue. Why would they have been asked to make a televised appearance? It smacks of Stalin, to quote but one dictator. Shortly before they were released on Monday evening, documents were also shown on television. Hapman said he was a messenger who had been asked to carry things to Seychelles. Mr. Gurule denied any involvement. He said on RTS that he was satisfied with the transition calendar to move the country to multi-party politics, and found there was no reason to a coup, which appears to me to be a wholly reasonable position to take. On the 20th of July, I wrote to the government on behalf of Mr. Gurule, asking them, putting them on notice that the arrest and detention were illegal, and to make matters worse, that my client was only released from detention after agreeing to be interviewed on the government television station, feels that he was treated in a most cavalier manner, rights were trodden on by authority, detention was stressful, etc., etc. This is somebody, of course, who died not too long afterwards, painfully, of cancer, and claiming 200,000 rupees in moral damages, but informing the government that if we weren't paid, we would go to court, which in fact we did. I subsequently filed an action on behalf of Conrad, having reduced the claim somewhat to 100,000 rupees. And it was defended by the government. A defense was filed by the principal state counsel then, currently judge of the Seychelles Court of Appeal, basically denying everything and saying that his actions amounted to that he was arrested, he was suspected on reasonable grounds of having committed offenses coming under Chapter 7 of the Penal Code. And Chapter 7 of the Penal Code deals with treason and inciting mutiny and inducing desertion and aiding prisoners of war to escape and all that sort of thing, which was pretty defamation of the president and so on. And then, of course, Mr. Gurule was taken ill and died, so the matter did not proceed. But there was certainly somebody who was, in my view, and I think on an objective analysis, detained for no apparent reason, never charged. 4 days, first of all, contravened the 24-hour rule. But in those days, that was not a rare occurrence. It's a pity that he was not able to pursue the matter further, but clearly this was a trivial issue which had been blown out of all proportion. I will leave my file with the Secretariat so that you may take whatever documents you want from it. Shall I also leave a copy of the McQueen judgment?
We can photocopy it and
Thank you,
give
and return
back.
it.
Thanks.
155.
Yeah, clear. Thank you so much. That's very clear. We love it when people do some research for us. So thanks a lot for doing that too.
You're very welcome.
We don't have any questions for you, and we've kept you longer than you should
No,
have
that's
been
fine. That's
here.
fine. In the meantime, my other appointment has been pushed back by
Okay.
15 minutes, so we're okay.
Oh, that's good. So we have no questions for you, and yes, you have a question for us?
No, I think no.
Okay, good.
Thank you
Good.
for taking the time.
Thank you for coming, and
It's
no
always a
doubt we
pleasure
will
to
see
see
you
you.
again.
Pleasure is all mine. I'm sure this
Yeah.
won't be my last
No,
appearance.
I'm
I
sure.
see my name keeps getting mentioned, so
Exactly.
I'm sure letters will be forthcoming.
Exactly, that's right. Thank you very much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Georges. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you. I wish you all a good weekend.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you.
So we will adjourn now and return at 3 o'clock. Thank you.
All rise. Case 0091 Wilna Laporte, and case 0094 Ramesh Naidu.
Thank you. Can you please call the next witness?
Miss Jessie Espaon.
Okay.
I, Jessie Espaon, swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So help me God. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Esperon, for appearing before the Commission today. The Commission called you as a witness in relation to Case 24, Mrs. Carlos, and in particular to explain to the Commission how after 50 plus years working in the education sector, working for the government, Ms. Carlos is not Carlulus. I should not say it and then pan to you, right? Carlulus. I'm sorry, Miss Carlulus? Carolus? Carolus. My apologies for destroying your name. So why she's not entitled to a government pension? And in response to that request, you did send a written explanation to the Commission, but the Commission thought it would be helpful if the broader public understood that explanation that you provided to it. So we would be grateful if you could respond to that request. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, members of the Commission. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to give an explanation to the particular case of Mrs. Carolis, or maybe generally. I don't know whether you would like me to continue in English or whether, for the benefit of several elderly persons, I would give the explanation in Creole.
I think it's better.
Okay, thank you. Ok, bonjour tout bon membre, après bonjour tout bon auditeur, bon di moun qui peut écouter moi. Si tout bon di moun azé qui concerne avec sa pension gouvernement, bon di moun qui travaille dans le service public pendant l'État colonial et avant 78, tiens un système qui a gagné pension et ça a gagné réglé en bas de la loi. Initialement, nous avons servi à la loi qui est la loi pension CAP 20, mais après, avec bon changement qui arrive avec bonne réclassification, bonne la loi, à présent, là, il tombe en bas CAP 159. Ça, la loi qui fait provision pour 10 personnes qui travaillent longtemps, ils gagnent pension s'ils font plus que 10 en service. Si on fait plus que 10 en service, il gagne les sans gratuité. Mais sa pension, il gagne le 31 décembre 1978. Par exemple, le 1er janvier 1979, nous connaissons, après l'indépendance, après le coup d'État, tout le monde gagne pension sécurité sociale. Mais après ça, il n'y a pas un système de pension. En principe, pour travailler au gouvernement, il y a un système de pension pour tout le monde. Seulement, les gens qui travaillent, les autres, ça qui tient dans les autres services par le 31 décembre 1978, ça a été freeze et tu payes les autres gagnent, les autres là 55 ans à cause de la loi provision, c'est qu'il y a des gens qui gagnent son pension 55 ans. Et après, les gagnent son pension à 55 ans, ils peuvent continuer à travailler jusqu'à 63 ans, les arrivent sur la sécurité sociale et les pensions retraite. Donc, Mme Carolis, d'après le record qui m'a guetté, mon parti là, moi seulement record là pour cause pour lui-même. Le 31 décembre 1978, il tient les 24 ans, 11 mois de service. Et les arrive là pour lui gagner son pension, il gagne une gratuité avec son pension à cause ici déjà fini, il dépasse 10 ans de service. Et son pension, il a calculé jusqu'à le 31 décembre 1978. Par exemple, sa pension, la personne pas volé ou ça. Après l'État, il a calculé un informé dans la loi. Après, tout le temps, il a besoin d'un certifié par le bureau auditeur général. Si pas un certifié par le bureau auditeur général, ou pas est capable de gagner sa pension. So, si on a dit monde de poste qui va calculer, at least, code peut certifier pour voir, pour dire, il y en a une faute, ou il y en a un problème avec la loi. Si vous pas appliquez la loi, bien, pour faire retourner, pour dire, il y a un problème là. Ou bien, si vous pas d'approuver le président, parce que vous avez approuvé le président pour gagner sa pension, pas n'importe qui dit monde qui pour approuver pour gagner. Comme s'il faudrait tout quelque chose en ordre avec sa pension. Et ça, il y a quelque chose qui, mon quoi, il est très bien qu'il besoin de certifié par l'auditeur général. Et n'a pas de discrétion. Il besoin de faire d'après la loi. So, voilà la situation, Mme Carolis, avec, il y en a plusieurs, les autres disent encore, de sa situation. Présent, après ça, les retard 1990, et quand dit monde qui ne prend son retraite avant 2005, ils pas ils font pension. Il y a des gens qui demandent nous sa question, ils disent, à cause de mon travail, tout ça, l'état, mon pas de gagner. Ils pas ils font pension aussi, à cause ils font pension sur la loi, tu prends l'effet 2005. Mon pas les vins cause de font pension, à cause de l'autre, l'institution qui a, à cause de là. Seulement, c'est mon peut expliquer qu'il y a ça gap. Entre 79 jusqu'à le 31 décembre 2004, tu n'as pas un système de pension de service public. So, dis mon les retard, il y a la sécurité sociale. Encore, bon pareil, Mme Carolis, si vous avez 10 ans de service, ils ont gagné des piliers. Ils gagnent sa pilier pension gouvernement, après ils gagnent sa sécurité sociale. Mais il y en a certains gens qui n'ont pas 10 ans, le 31 décembre 1978. Alors, ils n'ont pas gagné pension gouvernement as such, mais seulement ils gagnent son gratuité, probablement, si tu as un pétant de service. Après, ils gagnent son sécurité sociale, ils n'ont pas gagné qu'une fois pension aussi. Voilà la situation générale et sa situation qui, Mme Carolis, avec plaisir, les autres du monde, ils tombent là-dedans. Par exemple, par contre, ces commissions, ils les demandent des questions pour approfondir les autres connaissances là. Merci.
Il y a un gap of time somehow, somewhere.
Oui, depuis 79, tu n'as pas un système pension travailleur gouvernement, tu as un système sécurité sociale qui tout le monde gagne. Travail, pas travail aussi, tout gagne.
Mais moi, toujours pas trop clair, le 78, système, ça, la loi en bas 4159, etc., tu aboli.
Sa pension t'aboli. Seulement, même jusqu'à combien là, s'il y en a des gens qui tiennent nos autres services, seulement qui font autres pannes ici, autres pannes CC, ou bien autres pannes connaît, ou bien autres les claims là, autres style câble claim à cause nous gagnons peu bonne demande. Ou appelle ça système TRNUC qui tu fait, c'est un bon peu de monde, tu claim tu gagnes. Mais c'est mon TRNUC qui pour plutôt bon un established staff à cause sa pension là, il pour established staff. Ça qui aujourd'hui nous capable de dire des gens qui dans core functions gouvernement à l'état. Nous capables de comparer avec des gens core functions. Seulement bon un established autres parties dit tout pension après gouvernement tient la loi pour donner des gens un established là même là nous gagne une bonne situation bon des gens TRNUC bon qui travaille déposer ses mais partout qui autres besoin autres des gens pour attester pour les autres. Yeah.
Pareil, Mme Carolis, il travaille pendant 24 ans, on dit. Plus de 24 ans.
Jusqu'à le 31 décembre, il a 24 ans, 11 mois. Seulement, by the time, il retire 90, là, il finit, il a 50 ans. Alors, il commence 1954.
Oui.
Oui.
Mais alors, il gagne gratuité.
Il gagne gratuité avec une pension à le 31 décembre 1978.
Sa pension arrêtée.
Non, il n'a pas arrêté. Il continue, il a encore gagné. In fact, à un moment où il gagne somme, les computes, par exemple, mais il a augmenté. Ou gagne sa augmentation. On ne peut pas vous dire combien de pension il a gagné là. Seulement, il y a une augmentation de son pension. Il pas beaucoup seulement.
So, ce que je dis, c'est que même ça, la loi a aboli en 1978, mais bon du monde qui peut gagner les autres pensions en bas de la loi.
Bon du monde qui tient dans autres services. Bandi moun qui tient dans autres services le 31 décembre 78, il y en a qui ont assez zen, les autres qui ont travail. Ça ti gagne frozen, seulement les gagne 55 ans, ils donnent nous pension, ils donnent nous ou bénéfice. Après il y en a aussi bandi moun qui ti déjà paye pension les ça y a boli. Il continue gagne son pension, il va ti gagne des avantages li.
Oui, mais il tient encore travail, les salaires.
Oui, il tient encore travail.
En 1990.
Oui.
Mais ça veut dire, les temps, il peut travailler. Pas de gagner aucune pension.
Les gagne 55 ans. Comme si ça, si les types travail, disons, ils ont encore 40 ans. Ça, c'est une supposition.
Oui.
Ou pas pour gagner, ou il freeze, il quitte là.
Oui.
Les ou gagne 55 ans, quand même encore peut travail, ou gagne.
OK.
Oui.
Oui.
Mon explique, ou gagne en pension. Les ou gagne 55 ans. Par exemple, si les temps gagne 55 ans, ou quitte, ou still gagne pension. Si vous voulez continuer à travailler, ou gagne pension. Par exemple, les finalement, ou prend retraite, la sécurité sociale. Ou still continue à gagner pension, est-ce qu'il est ou mort? Ou gagne pension, est-ce qu'il est ou mort? Oui.
Mais ça veut dire, il gagne 55 ans, il
Commence à jouer sa pension.
commence à jouer sa pension,
Oui.
il continue à travailler,
Continue à travailler.
90.
Oui, 64 ans.
Oui.
Oui, après le retard.
Là, après, il retire, il gagne son pension, sécurité sociale.
Sécurité sociale,
aussi.
avec sa gouvernement,
Oui.
plus s'il y a une augmentation de pension gouvernement, les autres bénéficient aussi, les autres gagnent.
Mais il continue à gagner il peut continuer.
Il continue,
à gagner sa pension qu'il gagnait depuis 55 ans.
Il a encore pu gagner, oui. Il a la liste pension, lui.
OK.
Oui.
But, I mean, she said that, I mean, her evidence was that she got the colonial pension that was frozen in 1979.
Yes.
And when you're 55 years, you get it. But it's only 1,082 rupees,
It's 1,700.
1,700.
Because you see, I don't know whether I can say the sum. At the time of computation, it was 1,000, but then it increased over time. The increases were small, but there were increases.
Is that like how much you get for a pension after working
Well,
for 50 years?
No. Her pension was not computed on the basis of 50 years. It was computed on the basis of 24 years and on the salary that she was earning at that time. In 1978, salary wasn't high. It was low, you see. Yeah.
And so now with the pension, do you also contribute yourself? In the new system, does the working person have to contribute to their pension as well as the government?
For the pension fund, yes.
Yes.
All employers, in fact, anyway, the pension fund can talk about it, but I can just mention en passant. Yes, you have to contribute. Your employer too has to contribute for the pension fund, and there are criteria set according to law for you to qualify for a pension under the pension fund. Yes.
And the colonial pension, did you have to contribute to
No.
that? No, that
No.
was just...
There was no contribution.
No contribution.
Yes.
That is not finished.
Finished. Yeah. And as you may know, in 2017, government introduced a special pension for certain categories of employees, and that's a fixed pension. And then it might be increased over time, I don't know, but that's something else for people. But it will not affect people who are already drawing a pension. It's for people who are not drawing a government pension. Those who are drawing government pension will not get another one, will not get a second government pension. Yeah.
Yeah. Bon après-midi, Madame Espagne.
Bon après-midi.
Mon d'étant Madame Carole Steven devant nous, c'est un autre complainte qui m'ont un petit peu d'éclaircissement nous là. Par exemple, dans l'année 1983, il a gagné écrit un lettre, il peut avoir school meals, qui demande pourtant il peut transférer côté l'école, tu peux le supervisor school meal transférer dans l'école. Et dans sa lettre, ou qui signe sa lettre, c'est des mentions qui sont salaires, parti pour maintenir son salaire. OK? Et raison pour son transfert, pas de mentionner. le 6 février 85, il a gagné l'autre lettre qui dit à cause il n'est plus de sa poste supervisor, il prend une réduction de son salaire. Ça a sorti côté Madame Gemel, mon quoi côté d'éducation même. So, ça donne un petit peu éclaircissement à cause de ça.
Moi, je vais demander pour venir devant la commission pour venir cause de pension. On pas demander pour venir cause de s'assiser. S'assiser, tu passes dans le ministère de l'Éducation, probablement par délégué d'autorité. Moi, je travaille au ministère de l'Éducation, moi, il est temps. Moi, je travaille 2 fois au ministère de l'Éducation, je connais Mme Kaoulis très bien. Moi, l'aide que moi, j'ai écrit, les transferts, parce que pour gagner quelqu'un affecter son salaire. Par exemple, si tu as une situation que ton salaire est affecté, mon quoi, ça y est, l'autre 6 complaintes qui peut-être besoin de monde du ministère de l'Éducation vient cause de là. Moi, je travaille au département de l'administration publique, comme il est là. OK?
Mais seulement, par exemple, tous les étudiants et gouvernement, ils ne sont pas régulés by.
Mais si je ne pas de détails à cause de son salaire, c'est censé. Pourquoi pas?
OK.
Pourquoi il y a une cause de question que je ne pas de détails? Quelle femme a le record? Et ça qui m'a le record, sans même ça, et mon papa connaît les autres détails, pas derrière. Mais c'est moi qui dis qui dit que ça, je n'ai plus les autres. Madame Gemel, par exemple, il m'a dit. So, pour n'a pas personne qui est dans le ministère de l'Éducation là, actuellement, qui peut venir raconter aux histoires ça qu'est. So, pour capable de peut-être venir dire ou là la record, le record est comme ça, mais nous pas connaît détails. Vous voyez? À cause mon record, mon compte dit mon qui dit que ça qu'est-ce qui déjà fini mort. Et dans Miss Noël Alexander fini mort, Madame Gemelin fini mort, et dans this dit mon qui encore vivant qui involve avec ça qu'est. So, commission une demande file, zot pouvoir d'un file, lesquels ça dit moun, et zot a capable appeler pour les venir peut-être à compte d'histoire qu'il faut qu'on ait à cause encore vivant, a dit moun. OK.
I think we've requested the file, no?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Okay,
I got the
great.
letter today.
Okay, great. The file might be helpful.
Yes.
Une petite clarification, madame. Ça question de tarmac, là, qui te voulait dire exactement quoi? C'était un contexte spécial comme si, tarmac?
Well, il y en a dit, mon, allez, tant que comme quand je travaille, fait quantité bonne pause, c'est mais, après, bon travail qui, bon travail manuel.
OK.
Qui ont payé peut-être fois casual, pas azou.
OK.
Pour les autres, travail quantité le temps pour mettre ça bonne infrastructure en place. Je pas gagner il y a présent gouvernement tu prends ça en considération et tu amènes la loi pour la loi pas tu faire provision pour autres gagner pension amène du monde présent tu amènes ça 4.59 là pour les autres nous capable il y en a certains autres gagner pension.
Merci beaucoup.
Et mon cas, je fais une session avec la commission. Si vous êtes capable, les autres périodes, ça, l'évidence, nous a fait Mme Carolis, ça qui sont demande ministère de l'Éducation, son file, à cause, ça file que de l'administration publique, là, ou gagne record, c'est que ça qui est organisation, il y a mais dans son organisation, probablement, il y a plus de détails. So, pour capable peut-être gagner plus de détails. Quelquefois, on est capable de gagner un background à cause de son salaire, sans ça, bon l'état. Yeah.
You will request whichever file we haven't yet requested. Thanks. I guess we have to confess we're still a little confused about the pension.
The sum or the principle?
All right. The way that, if I give my understanding, is that colonial pension,
Yes.
she benefited from that
Yes.
when she turned 55 in 1978.
No.
No?
She didn't turn 55
when
in 78. Yes. She
but
was
it
younger.
It
Yeah.
stopped in 1978, then when she turned 55.
Mm-hmm.
So the years she worked beyond 1978 were calculated under a different system.
There was no pension
No
calculation.
pension at all
It was
then?
a fixed, everybody got a fixed social
amount.
security pension.
Okay.
And that, as you know, it is increased every year.
Yeah. So everyone
Yes.
got a fixed thing. So
Yes.
she gets her colonial pension and that fixed thing,
Social security.
Social Security, because it wasn't until the new system came in where people contributed. Is that with the new system? Is that the first time that workers contributed themselves? No.
No. For the pension fund,
Yeah.
they take into account your service even before 2005. But they had to start paying the pension from 2005 when the law was established, you see. So if in 2005 you had, 20 years service counting from previous, they would take that into account, and it was continuous or aggregate, and you meet their criteria, and they would take that into account. But unfortunately, people like Mrs. Carolis retired before that.
Before 2005.
Yes.
So more broadly, do you think people that retired before 2005 have a worse off situation than people that retired after 2005?
Well, you see people who retire after. It depends where you are employed. If you were in government, if you had 10 years service as at 31st December 78, you would get that government pension. Or if you're a teacher or a policeman or whatever, if you miss the 78 pension, you might get that fixed pension, that special pension. You get a pension fund. You get Social Security. You might get 2 or 3 pensions, depending on the circumstances of your employment.
So that's yes or no. Am I better off retiring after 2005?
Well, in a way, yes,
Yeah.
because you get your Social Security, you get your pension fund. And if you're lucky to be in the professions, a special pension, you'll get another fixed pension. If you're a teacher, policeman, a nurse, a doctor, a dentist, army person, and so on, you will get 3 pillars. So, and you put everything together. Yeah. And if you are less than 63 years, because now you can retire at 60, you can go in and work. So you can have 4 income, 3 pensions and 1. Many people do that. They quit at 60, but then they find some part-time employment. Yeah. They're better off, yeah.
And is the pension tax-free?
Yes. Always.
Yeah.
All. Yeah.
Clearer? Clearer? We'll have to study the laws.
It's very easy. It's very easy.
It's
You
sort of
just have
fun-
to get
yeah.
used to it.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's Friday afternoon. It's not helping, right? After 2 weeks of hearings. So, yeah. But I think we're as clear as we can be. So thank you very much for coming and explaining that to us. We really appreciate it. You are our last witness for the day. So we will adjourn. Before we adjourn, I noticed that Bishop Wong has not been here for these hearings. He will be back in February. He had other business that he had to attend to in January. We will have another hearing on the 22nd of January. That day, we will be in hearing. We will be conducting a site visit on Thursday, the 23rd, to the location where Brian Victor was attacked. But for now, we can adjourn, and we will return on Wednesday, the 22nd. And thank you very much again for appearing. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah.
9th of February, we have to.
Oh, yes, I will repeat. You have until, under the Act, you have until the 9th of February to alert the Commission that you are bringing a complaint. It doesn't mean that you have to do all the steps necessary to file that complaint. If you alert us, you're bringing a complaint, identify the nature of that complaint, we can give you a file number, and then you can take your time in bringing in the rest of the documents that we need. But 9th of February, and we'll repeat that again on the 22nd when we come back. Yes, please.
Nous avons fait tout le monde rappel qu'ils ont tendance jusqu'à le 9 février pour mener aucune complainte devant. Pas nécessairement qu'ils nous besoin prendre toute bonne documentation, etc., mais qu'ils ont viennent devant avec une complainte après qu'ils sont capables de dealer avec après ça les temps. Alors, si on n'a aucune complainte, on mène devant avant le 9 février. Merci.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Have a nice weekend. We shall adjourn. Thanks.
Thank you.
All rise.